So the material we're going to see is, of course, as you can see, wooden floors. Okay, think about wooden floors that are, are heavily used. So something like you will see in a salon or whatever. Okay, of course you can change the length and everything else you do not like. So, okay, and yeah, I went with wooden floor instead of just wood because I think it looks a little bit more interesting if you see it in context of something, and you can see the nice convexities on the edges. Okay, and even if we move up close, we can still get all this little interesting micro surface, okay, like broken edges and stuff like that, or rough parts we see over here. Now, okay, fairly simpler than other stuff we have done. We will start with the base pattern. So we use a shape, and let me adjust a little bit the image. Okay, shape, brick, pattern specific a little bit, so we have gradations on the edges, but we do not want to go way too overboard with this. And from over here we have two tile generators with almost the same settings, as you can see. Play with the values, and the major difference basically is the variation on luminance, variation, contrast. Okay, and the tile generator, the second one, has blending mode on max. The scale it doesn't have to be exactly the same. This will use this for the pixel processor down here to get some different, to break apart the texture that we're going to overlay. Okay, that's the major difference, and we will use this to work with height and all that. So let's see, before we get out of this, let me scroll on both of these tile generators, just in case you want to see something. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. I didn't actually do a lot of changes. This one has also fixed rotation random. Notice that I do not want quincunx flip because we have gradation on them, and if we turn this one on, you will see that on some of these the gradation will go downwards or upwards or vertically, more appropriate, and I do not want that because it kinda, you see, although it's not, I guess it's not entirely too bad with this. Anyway, let's keep it. I think I kinda like it right now. Or yeah, let's stay with the other one. Now, gradient linear histogram range, and here is where we control how much of the elevation basically, or the incline, a few of these wooden boards can have. Okay, these are placed by hand, so as you can guess, they are not symmetric. Now, we control a little bit of the levels with this over here, and the same thing with this, and we are ready to go see the height, okay, microsurface and all that. So for the height, we're going to get this, and we're going to run an edge detect because we want these black areas, and basically we want the separation between each plank. We're going to invert the grayscale, and we're also going to blur it after we invert it, and then with the levels we can control how much, if we want to disappear or vanish some of this, we can, make them more bigger, smaller, and stuff like that. Okay, but I think I liked it the way I had it before, so they are more prominent. Okay, you can clearly see the separation between the planks, but if you do not want to have that much, then change the levels. And then I'm going to subtract on top of the previous one, because as you can see over here, basically the lines and separations, they do not exist anymore. So I'm going to use subtract and subtract on top of it. If I raise the subtract, then you will notice bigger gaps between the planks. Okay, so I'm going to run a levels node again, raise the values, the middle ones, and then it's ready to be outputted as the height. If we have this on the center, then you can see that the separation is even greater and even greater, and you can even go much greater, which this is not entirely too bad, but it depends on what kind of floor you want to have. Okay, if you want to have floor that is destroyed or some parts of it missing and all that, then this is perfectly fine too. It's actually not bad, but you know, I wanted to have something more stable, something that it's not entirely destroyed. Okay, something like this. Then the base part of the normal is almost ready, so we can output it normal, intensity to 20. Okay, normal combine when we're going to combine the microsurface and output it for the normal. So let's see the microsurface. To get the wood texture, we're going to first get something that looks like wood, and we're going to use the pixel processor to break it apart. Okay, so the final one will be this, but because if we lay this on top of our tiles we have on the ground, then it's not going to look that good, so we break it apart so you cannot trace one pattern from plank to plank. Okay, so there's already two nodes inside Substance Designer. One is Wood Fibers 2 and Wood Fibers 1. We're going to use both. And what I did is Wood Fibers 2, warp node with a Perlin noise zoom, and we start getting, the flow of the wood with the nodes and some nodes that we're going to get also later. Then I'm going to blend it with Multiply on top of the Wood Fibers 1, so it gets more, it's more smoothed out at this point. Then I'm going to, of course, rotate it with Safe Transform Grayscale about 90 degrees, since our planks go horizontally. Then we're going to add rod. Okay, these are used planks. Okay, a lot of people have passed through them. You can say that they are used heavily. Black and white spots, levels, we warp them around using Perlin noise zoom, and then with add linear dots we pass it on top of the base pattern. If we add more, then you're going to see some way more distinct changes. Okay, you see this, and it gets rid of the fibers. So of course we do not want to add that much. We still want to keep the fibers we have there. Now, scratches, of course, it's wood, it's easily scratchable. I have created a few scratches like this, basically splatter circular, raise the number, radius random, and until you get something like this. And you can also center orientation, and you will get some different kind of scratches. I like this line over here. Now, okay, splatter circular, warp around with Perlin noise 2, and I actually do not like this right now, but anyway. Then we blend a scratch again with add linear dots on top of the main pattern, and we have something that looks like this. After that, we're going to add a few more nodes, and what I did is get again the wood fibers too, and then run it again through a warp node, again with a Perlin noise zoom, and I do a value of 30, and we get these more prominent nodes, and they're also kinda a little bit more noisy. We can get rid some of the noise if we add a blur node. Let's try it. And maybe it's too much. Let's try this. Although, yeah, okay, it clears away some of the noise you see over here, and you can see that, although this is also not bad, so it's entirely up to you if you want to have it like this. I think this kind of looks a bit muddy over here, so I'm going to remove it. Better to have, you know, some small something that looks like something is rough, rather than have something that it looks muddy. Okay, warp. I do not want to add the nodes everywhere, just some select places. Okay, so I'm going to use clouds 2 levels node, get with the values some areas, and blend them with a black color on top of on top of the base pattern, so we only get a few nodes, a few knots, and then we blend this with the pattern we had after we have applied our scratches, and we get this, and we use max lighten, and we can control how much we want to have the nodes to show. Okay, of course, too much, it's going to get this thing. No, they appear too noisy, and although it's not entirely that bad, let's make it a little bit more subtle, or something like this. Okay, then levels node. This levels node serves so if you want to have anything else over here, you can add it and just pass it on the levels node. But I think this microsurface is that it's enough for what for the final material I had in mind. Okay, so we have our microsurface, and now we're going to use the tile generator. We're going to fix, and yeah, we're not going to fix this one, is not actually needed, and in this one we can erase a little bit the middle ones, so there is more distinct separation, although it doesn't make that much of a difference, so I guess you can just backspace this and leave only this one. Okay, pixel processor, and it breaks apart the whole pattern, so it looks like it's different wood instead of having everything just overlaying it on front of your own tiles. The pixel processor, again, the same one we always use: position, some gray, swizzle float, multiplication with a float, vector float 2 because the position is in float 2 and this is a float 1, and we add it on top of the original one, and we output Okay, so we have our microsurface. One last thing we're going to add into our microsurface is add a little bit of edge damages. And to create these edge damages, we're going to go again into the height, where we have inverted our grayscale, and let's try this one. Maybe this will make it, yeah, this makes it for more subtle than the other one. You see they are a bit smoother. Okay, slow brew grayscale, Perlin noise zoom, distance, you can see that it's far away, because this has to do with edge damages that are applied on all the tiles. That's why we need small distance. And over here we can use max lighten to start chipping away on those boards. Okay, so we get a little bit more interesting shape in the end. Of course we can go overboard with this. You can see that if we go too much with max lighten, we start losing microsurface detail. Of course we do not want that, so let's do something like this. Okay, it's very distinct. You can see it on the edges. Okay, and of course over here you can see it a bit more, just so that we break a little bit the patterns a bit more. Okay, and we're almost ready. The final mix we're going to do is with the height, and we're going to use subtract. So we basically take the above pattern and imprint it on a white canvas. Of course it's not a white canvas, it has the gradations on top of it, and we get this. And we're going to do one small thing again. We're going to subtract the opposite of your levels, which is over here. We just subtract, and it just gets a little bit of, I actually forgot why I wanted this, but as you can see, it just gets, if you want, it controls how much of these edges go down. Okay, if you want more separation, instead of doing it with the levels, you can control it also from over here. It's a very subtle thing. So yeah. Okay, so we have also our microsurface. Since we have our microsurface, let's finish with a normal. Okay, a normal intensity to 2. We do not want a lot of detail because it tends to get noise. Normal a lot of intensity on our detail because it gets noise. Let's turn this detail oriented. Normal combined, and we output into our normal. Okay. From the normal we can create curvature smooth, ambient occlusion, and AO. But notice that I only wanted the normal that has to do with the edges, and not the normal that has to do with the details that go inside, because this will get way too much noisy, and I only wanted this so I can create the ambient occlusion and then the dirt, especially the dirt, because let's actually try and see which one will look better. And yeah, this one isn't actually bad too. There's not so much difference in this one. Let's see with the dirt changes. Yeah, you see that the dirt map is kind of more extreme over here. Although, yeah, it kind of looks like it imprints it. Like it gets too much of the color, I think. So let's just keep it the way it was. Let's just only keep this for the ambient occlusion. Okay, yeah, the difference is too small, I think. Anyway, okay, curvature smooth. Do this any way you feel like it's best. Ambient occlusion, export it and output it into the ambient occlusion. And we can work with the roughness directly. Even having a single color over here will work fine for the material, I believe, because everything is already pretty rough. So just to get a little bit more interesting to look at, I just used what we have from the microsurface mix. I used a high pass grayscale. Then I inverted the grayscale because we have the blacks inside the edges, so that will make our edges to reflect. We do not want the edges to reflect. We pretty much want on the edges where it's almost total black to be pretty rough, so basically not reflect anything, and that's why I inverted the grayscale, and then use the levels and erase a little bit the blacks, so it's already a pretty rough a pretty rough material, and output it to the roughness. And if I erase this, let's rotate a little bit or let's look it from the sides, I guess. Okay, you can see that the roughness is it changes only on a few cases. Right, I think it looks just fine. Like over here, it looks nice. It's a little bit more interesting to look at. Like over here, there is not already destroyed the damage, so it's a little bit shiny and all that. And that's actually a pretty cool image. So we've seen roughness, normal, that. Of course, metallic will just be a black color, and I should fix this too. You can see that I did not do a lot of stuff with the metallic to worry a lot with it. Okay, and we're going to create a dirt mask from curvature smooth and ambient occlusion, which we're going to use on the color. So for the color, we have the main mix from over here, and we're going to create a first gradient map. The first one we're going to see is this one, and I'm going to output it. The gradation, of course, is this. Okay, if you want to have the same, pause the video and draw a line over here, and then because I want it to be a little bit more a little bit darker, I added a hue, saturation, lightness, and lower a bit the saturation and the lightness. Okay, I know I wanted to have a few highlights like this, so what I did is get this mix we have over here, and then use the levels and try to see what can I catch with just the levels node. And as you can see, it gave me a lot of highlights. So I use this as a mask, but I did not want to have all of this, so I also use the clouds to noise levels and blend them together with subtract on top of this. Okay, yeah, although if we change this, of course, it's going to be a little bit better, and we can also be more precise. Okay, it's going to get a fewer stuff, and we have our highlights, or some color changes or some color differences for the edges, because usually the edges are what gets damaged first. Now, and for the color of the edges, I use another gradient map. This one is a little bit simpler, and I've created two colors. This one has saturation lower and a point over for the lightness, and we use copy, of course. And the second color I used is also saturation lowered and lightness just a bit darker, so we get this kind of color. Now, this kind of color, of course, works pretty good for the dirt, so I'm going to use the mask that we have for our dirt and use it as a mask. And we have this. And over here, what I did is, okay, if you look at some wooden floors, they usually look like, that some of the edges, some of the planks do not have the same color as the others. Like they use different sets of planks, or some planks get rotten faster than others. I do not know why that is. I just noticed it. Okay, So what I wanted to do over here is go back again into before we apply the, basically reuse this since we already have it from the tile generator, which has differences on the luminance, and I'm going to invert the grayscale because I think it had a little bit more. Okay, I didn't like this too, and if I played with the levels then I was going to get this too, so I inverted it and then used a levels node and tried to isolate a few planks. So I'm getting this and I'm going to use it as a mask. I'm going to create a new gradient map from our microsurface mix. I could have used the same one as this one, or I could have used another completely different microsurface. It wouldn't matter. Okay, and I'm using this, I'm blending them, the previous shape, with this one, with subtract. Although you can try other different modes, I think I liked how subtract looked, but the others aren't that bad. Okay, and I'm using, and you know, it's about half point, 0.44, and we get different colors on different planks, like this. From over there, we are almost ready. The final thing I've added is a little bit of some more differences on the color. So these red parts you see over here. So it's basically about making it a little bit more interesting to look at and having a little bit more colors for, you know, to trick the eye that something has happened over here, or something you know, that something else exists or between the cracks. Now, so what I did is get the second, get again the MS mix we have over here, try to see and find what we can isolate with this, and then use that as a mask, created a new gradient map from a clouds to node. I try to say node and noise at the same time together, so I get to make noises. So as I was saying, noise 2, clouds 2, gradient map. Okay, this is the gradient. We have a color to copy over it, and we get this, you know, this changes on the color of the wood. If I go all the way copy, you'll see that it's all dark. Now, this can be used, of course, for, you know, if this was painted wood. It's actually even full. If you go full with this, it doesn't look half bad, to be honest. It still looks good. It all has to do with how you want it to look. So I'll just lower it. I'm going to make it a little bit more subtle, or I think 0.76 something should do. Yeah, I think 0.59 will also work. It doesn't look half bad. Okay, and we output it to the base color. So that's it. Okay, this was fairly simple. It's all about, you know, getting the right colors and, you know, making a somewhat interesting shape to look at. Now there is cases like this, there's problem like this, but yeah, it's not entirely a problem, since there could be a way that, you know, two planks are at the same level, and since these are usually glued together, it works fine. And especially if you raise the tiling, let's go something at 0.5, I think looks just fine as well. Okay, so we'll end the video here. Check out the description for some useful links for the ArtStation post. Of course, like and subscribe, and I've also set up a Patreon page so that we can, you know, continue making cool material breakdowns, since you know. So yeah, I'll see you next time.